So the second section deals with the actual experiences of the students. And what I found through the research, sorting through the data and seeing what emerged, were 7 distinct experiences that were repetitive and were consistent in the lives of these undergraduate students. Bearing in mind, they were Catholic, they were Baptist, they were Methodist, they were Pentecostal, they were no church, they were spiritual, they were non-spiritual, but they all, from time to time, went to the table of the Lord in their own respective worlds to celebrate communion. So what I found was a method that was developed in Great Britain. Now, it's a very big word. It's called Interpretative phenomenological analysis. What it does, it's a big snobby word just to basically say, what was it that the students were experiencing? So the method that I used, one major thing that it does, and this is very important, is it bracketed or suspended predetermined language of the ologies and isms of academia and theology and everything, and it allowed the students to describe their experience in their own words, in their own terms, in their own way, in order to discover the meaning behind their experience. So what I did in using this method was to take their experiences and find out what was it that was happening in their lives? What was already going on ahead of where we were as a church, or where we are as a church? I found that the students had to sense or feel things in order for it to have meaning to it. So doctrine, dogma, plain teaching, listen to me, monologue, it wasn't working with the students. But if the students were involved in the learning process, they could sense and feel their way through. And what emerged in this suspension of typical words was an explanation of what they were really encountering. Now, I do believe when we approach someone's experience like that, we discover where God is ahead of us and we begin to find new language. But here's the interesting thing. Typical research methods will start with, they'll start with the form and work towards the substance. What I was doing was starting with the substance and working towards the form. What that simply means is this: theology explains and describes God with a isms and ologies list of words. But the more we focus on that, we're no longer focusing on God himself. We're just focusing on the words that describe him. When we suspend these words and we allow the students to just say it as it is, what is it that you're experiencing? What emerges is fascinating. One dominant thing that came through was the use of imagination. Imagination is very, very popular amongst late millennials and Generation Z, and the book expounds on that wonderful human faculty called imagination.